Hey, podcaster, how are you? We are live at PodFest in Florida, and I'm actually coming to you after my first huge live speaking gig. And I want to talk about the power of showing up as your authentic self and how that is actually going to set you apart from every other podcast and show out there. This is the key to your success and what you need to be doing to get your show growing. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to Beyond the Downloads, the show that dives deeper than stats and charts to reveal the real impact of your podcast. I'm Jennifer Dragonette, founder of the Bold Action Collective, where we believe that bold moves truly spark transformation. Each week, we explore how your unique story, passion, and purpose can create powerful connections that will change lives, yours and those of your listeners. If you're ready to go beyond the metrics, embrace bold action, and unleash the life raft potential of your podcast, you're in the right space. Let's go.
I am here, and I am actually talking to you from my bed because let me tell you, going to a live event as an introverted extrovert is exhausting, but it's also one of the most rewarding things. And it brought me to the reminder of how when we show up as ourselves and we actually make human connections, that's where the magic happens. And that's part of this Beyond the Downloads, right? Is that we actually need to make connections. So many times as we're building businesses, starting podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever it is you're doing, you don't really think about the person. Yeah, we might create our avatar, we might do this, we might do that, but that's putting everything in a box. And if you're listening to the show, my guess is you are not in the box thinkers. So why I'm bringing this up and why this hit so home for me today is that I was so nervous showing up today because I chose to wear a giant dragon floaty. Yes, like think pool ring with a giant head and a tail. And this is how I delivered my speech, my professional speech. And I was like, well, they're either going to love me or they're going to hate me. But guess what? It's going to weed out the people who don't fit into my show. But what I didn't expect was how much this branding with wearing this giant floaty all day, it started conversations and it actually drove people to me. And the thing is that's who I am. I am the person that shows up in the weird outfit, the pool floaty, and it became like a joke and it became a talking piece. It became all these different things. So what I'm trying to get at is that realistically, when you hide these parts of yourself and you don't give them to your audience, that's part of why your show isn't growing. That's probably part of why I've seen different areas of stagnant times in my business and in my podcast is because I haven't been showing up as myself, because we have some expectation or some thoughts or something that makes us think we have to be a certain way or do things one way to fit into this group and one way to fit into that group. And we have to kind of like chameleon our way into this space. But that's not true. Because the people today that thought that I was ridiculous in some pool floaty, guess what? They're probably not going to want to be in my space, and that's okay. Because when you show up and you want to be for everybody, you're going to be for nobody. And I would rather be a little spicy than all vanilla, personally, over here. That depth of flavor and like a really good salsa. Like, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I do like a good vanilla ice cream too, but that depth of flavor and salsa, yeah. And that's what you should do in your brand. So as you're thinking about how to grow your podcast and what to do next, and we just came into this new year and we're like, new year, new me. Well, maybe it's time to be the real you. Maybe it's time to put all those boxed up versions of you aside and just step out. Do you need to do something crazy like I did and be like, hey, I'm going to pitch to talk about my book when everybody knows me for podcasting? I'm going to talk about your story as someone's life raft instead of how to podcast. A little outside the box. And then on top of that, I'm going to show up not like everyone else in normal everyday clothes or business attire. I'm going to be the girl that wears the pool floaty. I stepped outside my box. And what happened today, the amount of networking that showing up as myself brought was so many great connections that are not only going to just, possibly become clients, but beyond that, I just made friends. I made an impression. I changed some lives. After my talk, I heard so many people come up to me and be like, I can relate to your story. It was so impactful. And I was really surprised because, let's be honest, I blacked out for the for the entire speech, but it was so nice to have those people come up. And that's part of my story, right? I reached out to the lady that helped me, that saved my life through podcasting. So while you're going through this whole new year, new me, do I keep podcasting? Can I be part of the 15% club? And that is 15% of podcasters actually make it, and you want to be part of that club. Like, how you're going to remain part of that club is to be authentic to yourself and to be yourself. And if you don't know who that is, like, I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm coming back from a lot of things that I shed last year and rediscovering who I am. But I am that silly person. I'm that silly person that wears the floaty to an event that takes up so much space. I'm not the girl in the corner anymore. And I never really was that girl. So I want you to take a look at your podcast and just see, like, hey, is this still on brand and aligned with who I am as a human, who I am as a speaker, who I am as a coach, consultant, whatever it is? Like, who am I? Who are you actually? Are you letting your audience know that? Well, the more you know, the more things are going to change. I've had so many conversations today that people are like, I'm going to wait to start until XYZ happens, or I'm going to go in this order, or I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, but you're in the mix of it right now. That's when your emotions are the highest. And when you talk from an emotional standpoint, people are going to connect to that deeper. So why wait till you're all the way through the process? Use your show a little bit like a journal, in a sense, as long as it fits into your topic of like, hey, here's where I'm at right now. Here's how I'm going through this. Here's how I'm doing this. Here's the messy middle. People are craving that authentic, not put together, like, this is real and raw. You're still steps ahead of your client. Whether you're 1 step or 50 steps ahead, you can still turn around and reach back. And that's what I want you to remember as you go into this, we're still in the beginning of oh my goodness, what year are we in? 2025. As we go into 2025, you really need to figure out like what it is you want to stand for and who you want to be to do it. Do you want to blend in or do you want to stand out? Because blending in is boring, and blending in might be why you're working so hard to get nowhere. Like, be the weird girl that shows up on stage in dragon floaty and talks about, how at some point she had suicide ideations and had a plan and her life turned around. I mean, it was a pretty heavy story to show up and deliver in a pool floaty. But of course, the triumph side of it also came from the story. But there's just so many different aspects that you can really lean into. And I think this year is all about forgetting what we think we should be and start being who we need to be. And this might take some inner work of you being like, did I want to do this? Did I want to do this to please someone else? Do I think this is all my options are? And really start thinking about those things. And that's what's going to set your podcast apart from other people, is being you. Be the weird person. Be the wacky person. If you're weird and wacky and it's fake, stop doing it. And I bet you will connect and align with more ideal listeners that will actually come into your space and either, become allies or whatever it is that, they're meant to be in your life. I created a lot of connections and a lot of memories with people. And when they go to look at things, they're going to remember who I am. Be like, oh, you're the life raft girl that also does podcast production. Yep, that's me. So I really need you to stop being so in the box and start being yourself. So I challenge you to look inward and be like, what is one thing that I am masking per se? Like, if you think you have to show up with a full face of makeup because you do clips of your video to put out there and you hate makeup, that's not you. You don't have to do that. What would happen if you didn't do that? Would you be willing to test it out? maybe it's worth a try. So that is the biggest takeaway from day one and my first giant speaking gig, is that the talks that were memorable today were the ones with the people who had stood out, that didn't take the norm, whether that was dropping cuss words like crazy and wearing fun outfits, whether that was their delivery, whether it was someone like me wearing a freaking dragon life floaty. Figure out your thing and make it happen, because, we all need each other's story. Somebody's story saved my life, and you sharing your story, I'm sure, can impact and save others' lives too. So go be you, go out and be amazing, have an amazing day, because you are worthy, you are wonderful, and your story deserves a microphone. Now go do it.